Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Oldish. My name is Karen Brown, and as always, it is my pleasure to welcome you here. Today, I want to talk about independence and the fundamental importance of it for older adults. It's becoming increasingly a discussion in so many circles. I can tell you that the other week I saw this on my LinkedIn. Long-term care is dangerous. What's Ontario's plan for alternatives? Now, it doesn't matter that I live in Ontario and you may live somewhere else. What matters is that the discussion on that article was all about individuals who had been in long-term care and because of the lockdown had become sicker and more debilitated, not because they got COVID necessarily, although that certainly happened, but because of the lockdown measures that meant that they were isolated, that there wasn't enough staff at many homes to see to their very basic needs around nutrition and bathing. Some people became nonverbal who had not been nonverbal before. Um, there are just a host of things going on. And what it boils down to is that this is a time that a lot of people just simply don't want to be thinking about going into long-term care. They don't want to be thinking about having their loved ones go into long-term care. Um, this is not a dig at long-term care facilities. There are a lot of really, really good ones out there. Unfortunately, the media is focusing on the ones where bad things are happening. And unfortunately, there are a lot of them where less than desirable things are happening. Families have been known to pull their loved ones out of long term care. They're managing themselves somehow, some way, without really understanding or knowing whether the room will still be there for their loved one when they need it again. Probably not. They'll probably have to go through the process all over again because they left and there's a waiting list. So, you know, it's a dicey situation. But here's the thing, there is a lot that each of us can do, and frankly, should be doing, in order to forestall the time when we go into long term care. A lot of people live very successful lives with adapted homes and with some services being provided to them while they live in their own homes, in their own communities. For many people, it's just maybe the last few months or the last year, maybe 2 years of their lives when they're not really able to look after themselves and when family isn't able to provide the kind of care that they need. And then they do have to go to a long-term care home. But for those of you who are looking at some of these headlines and thinking, not me, not this girl going into long-term care, then you need to do some planning because it is in that pre-planning that you get to decide the things that you're willing and able to do. So it's all about your ease of living. If you have got all kinds of financial resources, you can bring all of those services to you in the home where you live, regardless of where it is. That is not the case for most of us. Most of us don't live with that kind of privilege. So for us, we have to think about other kinds of things. We have to think about the environmental limitations that we're living with rather than the limitation of ourselves, of our own bodies. So if you think about it that way, not your limitations, the limitations of the environment you live in, puts a different spin on things. There's a quote from Maya Angelou that I like quite a bit. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So if you stop thinking about yourself as the person who isn't fitting somehow, who is less than, who is not able to cope with your home, your environment in some way, and start thinking about the fact that it is your environment that can't cope with you, it puts a different spin on it. And it can lead you to make some very forward thinking decisions about where you live and how you live and what the next year, 5 years, 10 years will look like. Together with us doing that kind of assessment for ourselves and our own life, Builders and contractors and renovators need to educate themselves about the kinds of things they can offer to those of us who might want to be making changes to our living environment. So, if you have a contractor or a renovator come in and you want the bathroom renovated, you just want your bathroom renovated, then it's quite possible that the contractor will just think, okay, well, we'll do A, B, C. We'll do, a counter, a toilet, a stand-up shower instead of a tub. They won't necessarily think that maybe the counter needs to have room for a wheelchair to go under. They won't necessarily think that maybe a toilet should be higher. They won't necessarily think that a shower should be curbless. They need the kind of education that will allow them to look at you and, without offending you, sort of assess in their minds and say, okay, well, this person is 60, and ask the questions. How long do you intend to live here? Do you intend to live here for another 10, 15, 20 years or more? If so, here are some options you might like to consider, because it is quite feasible that within a 20-year period, somebody who is now 60 or 65 will need a mobility device of some kind. If having the need of a mobility device means that you can no longer live in your home because it doesn't function correctly, because it's not set up correctly, then guess what? But if you're doing that renovation now, why not think about that? Why not think about installing grab bars? And don't even. I know what you're thinking, grab bars. Oh my God, it's going to look like an institution. No, 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 no. We did a show a while back. Go search the archives. Grab bars are freaking gorgeous in some cases now. Yes, you can get the institutional chrome ones that make your bathroom look very institutional. There are some beautiful grab bars, and I showed you some that are styling and that come in different finishes, bronzes and polished oils, and I mean, all kinds of things. They are beautiful. So think about what you may need. And I mean, it's about priorities, right? Is your priority staying in your home and staying in your community? Then this follows. If your priority is looking like a queen, then, and having people think that you don't need any of this stuff, then you might find yourself having to move, and you know something may precipitate your move, and you might not have a choice. Let's be real about it. Things happen, and as soon as that first bad thing happens, you're out of there. That's just the way it is these days. There isn't enough home care. Your adult children may not be geographically close. Your adult children may not have time to give you the kind of care. You may not have the money to afford the home care. I mean, there are all kinds of ifs. Make the decision yourself. Make the decisions yourself before somebody else has to make them for you. And by the way, building a home that has accessible features in it does not devalue your house. No, it does not. If you look at the current writings on this subject, it actually expands the market that you can sell to when the time comes, because more and more people are wanting and needing these features. Think of a young family and maybe they have a child who needs a wheelchair or a walker. Think of a family with just a toddler and not having stairs in your house. How wonderful would that be? Think of, I have an acquaintance who terrible story. Anyway, they have a son who was involved in an event, and he's early 30s, and he'll be in a wheelchair the rest of his life. Early 30s, and that's it. He won't be walking again. So his environment has to change, and in a hurry. I have another friend who is in a wheelchair in her mid 40s. She was in a car crash through no fault of her own. She was riding a bicycle and she was hit by a driver, and her life changed in a heartbeat. It happens. And, she was fortunate. She had insurance money to build a brand new home all on one level, completely accessible. That's not something that most of us are going to be able to do on a dime. So we've got to think about that stuff for ourselves. The ability to live independently for the rest of your days, to the extent that you are able to, is something that has immeasurable value for most of us. For most of us. Some people are incapable of living independently. Some people, I have a relative who is going to be absolutely um, useless if something happens to their spouse. Can't cook, can't clean, doesn't know how to do anything. Yeah, it's a guy. It's a guy. Doesn't know how to do anything. If his wife passes, when his wife passes, he's going to be helpless and he will have to be leaving his current situation. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. It is written in the stars that this is going to be the outcome. Could he have learned to cook? Yep. Could he have learned to do laundry, what the washing machine looks like and how it operates? Yep. Chose not to. He chose. And that is the case with so many of us. Not making a choice is making a choice. If you purposefully choose independence and you move toward that direction, you are making those kinds of choices with every opportunity that comes your way. All right. There is a lot of new technology around that can help you. And it is better for you to learn this technology while you are still of sound mind and able to learn and willing to learn. It's more difficult to teach somebody technology as their memory starts to flag a little. So, you can learn it now. I've got, I'll whisper it because I have a Google. And if I say, hey, Google, turn this on or turn that on, they do. So I'm not going to say it out loud because honestly, they hear everything and things will start turning on and off. So I'm not going to say it out loud, but you have those kinds of assistants that can turn lights on and turn lights off. If you don't like it, you can do it from your iPhone or your iPad or and if you've got an Android, they work from there too, I assume. I don't have an Android, but I'm sure that they work that way. You can touch, you can clap, you can say, you can do anything that you want and make so many elements of your house work. You can adjust temperatures, you can turn on and off fireplaces, like this one behind me here. Whoops, pointing the wrong way. Behind me here, this electric fireplace turns on and off because I say so. And it's lovely. It's lovely to have all of that. Now, sometimes it's good to get your butt up off the couch and physically walk to the switch. Not going to deny that, but you can give yourself the option. You can have those options available to you. You can learn how to use a slow cooker. You can learn how to put a chair by the door and use a shoehorn. I mean, there are so many things you can learn how to do. You can learn how to access YouTube videos and do Tai Chi or yoga. You can learn all of these things. You have to want to. Tai Chi and yoga may seem like an odd thing to bring into the conversation, but if you increase your range of motion, then you increase your ability to do so many more things. The bending and the stretching, it's true. If you don't use it, you lose it. You tend to seize up if you don't do anything. And, I know I have definitely felt that during this period of lockdown when I have not been terribly mobile just because I don't go out of my apartment because you're not supposed to. So I don't. I sort of walk down to the garbage chute now and then. It's not enough. So you've got to access YouTube and find those videos and look after yourself. You have got to be always thinking about your independence. It matters. It's going to matter when the time comes to consider whether or not you can continue living in the environment where you are. Every time you can't do something in your house, and I don't mean climbing on a ladder to change a light bulb, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, can you manage your house? Can you work in your house? Can you make meals efficiently in your house? Can you do your laundry without going up and down stairs? Can you get in and out of your bathtub? Can you get in and out of your shower? What if you had a walker? What if you were in a wheelchair? What if you fell and broke a hip? Could you manage? It's all of these what ifs. And then you take steps to overcome those things and prepare so that if something happens, you can still function in the place you love, in the community that you're used to. That's what it's all about. Pre-planning, proactive aging. That's one of our taglines, proactive aging. All right, I will leave you with that today. Next week, we're going to talk about occupational therapists and how they can help you with the functionality of your space. So join us for that one. Until next Wednesday at 12 noon, then, I will wish you goodbye and remind you that it does indeed take a village to age a senior. Bye, everybody.